Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Friday, December the 19th. I guess the last Friday before Christmas. I hope everybody's planning things and getting your holidays underway. I know there's always a rush at the end, so I hope you're not one of those who waits until the 24th to get your shopping and everything else done. So I hope everything is working out well. It looks like there's going to be nice weather here in North Texas. We don't have to worry about driving anywhere. And I hope that all of you have big plans, and I hope you get to see a lot of family. I have a post over at the American Thinker today about President Trump and the Europeans. You know, he hasn't been very popular in Europe. I think that's obvious. A lot of Europeans don't like the way he talks. They don't like they don't like him, period. It's kind of a personality thing, perhaps. I don't know. But what's interesting about this article that I posted and the link to another article that I posted, the article that I first wrote was from European Conservative, a website, where basically what you're hearing in Europe is we don't like him, but we agree with a lot of what he's saying, particularly climate change, immigration policies, and the fact that a lot of these European countries have not invested money in their own defense, which is very dangerous when you take a look at how aggressive Putin has been in Ukraine. So it's an interesting thing. They don't like him, but they're starting to agree with his ideas. Now, maybe they'll never like him, but at least we can say that they tend to agree a lot more with him than you would think. And a lot of it, I guess, it's what's happening in Europe with their crazy immigration policies and their obsession with climate change that has made energy very expensive in many of these countries. So just fascinating. I thought it was a fascinating idea because there's a lady at our church who has a visitor from Europe once a year, and I had a chance to talk to this lady when she was here last. And it's just fascinating to me how much what she was telling me about attitudes in Europe are similar to this article and attitudes toward Trump. They don't like Trump, but they're starting to agree with him. So whether that will ever turn into liking Trump, I don't know. But at least they're starting to agree with a lot of what he's saying. If you had or if you have the opportunity to go to the internet and check out this conference or reunion or whatever you want to call it, this meeting that President Trump had with the drug companies today, it was absolutely incredible. I happened to catch it during lunchtime, so I had a chance to watch a lot of it. It is remarkable what's going to happen with drug prices and how much President Trump and these drug companies are working in the direction of making drug prices in the United States more manageable for a lot of years. And this is something that I never understood. The same drug in the United States was a lot more expensive than it was in other countries. I never understood why. I mean, we're not talking here about third world countries. We're talking about developed countries like Europe, where the standard of living is fairly similar. And yet we were paying a lot more than they were paying for the same drug. And I never really understood that. Well, I guess that's going to change. That's going to change under this new arrangement that President Trump made with the drug companies. But I just thought it was a fascinating conference. And it was all televised. You could see it all. And I would really encourage you to check it out because it shows in a way one of the talents that President Trump has, which is to get to the bottom of something and fix it. He has a habit of getting things done, which is one of his best qualities, as far as I can tell. And I think that's the executive, the businessman in him, that he sees a problem, let's fix it. And I think with these drug prices, that is exactly what he did. So let me congratulate the president. I thought it was a really good move on his part. How quickly will some of these drug prices be available in the United States? I guess next year. It's not going to be that long. And also the other thing that was very impressive about these executives from the drug companies is the number of them who are going to be bringing some manufacturing and production to the United States. And that is another goal of the president. And I think he's having success with that, which is good for the country for the country as a whole. Well, I got to say something about Brown University. I don't usually like to get into these police stories, if you will, or crimes, because I don't know. It's hard to really say something when you don't know the details. But I think I know enough to say that if I had a son or daughter at Brown University, I would be very disappointed with the security in that school. There didn't seem to be the commitment to security that you would expect from a school like that. When you have a man walking in and out, nobody knows who he is, not even a student, by the way. Or he was a student, I guess, but he's not one now. So he's walking in. How does he get into a building, walking around, going into a classroom and shooting people? It's just hard to believe that somebody could easily get in a building like that and nobody knows anything because they don't have cameras, I guess, wherever this happened. You know, I teach at a local community college, and there's cameras everywhere. When I walk into the building that I teach, I'm on camera. They see me walk in. I guess they see me walking all the way down to the classroom. That's the way it should be. I mean, we should know who's coming in. You know, we don't have to lock the doors all the time, but we should know who's coming in, or at least have a video of who's coming in so we can determine who the person is. So this is really, it's just a bad day. And of course, sad day when you consider that some young people were killed. I guess two of them were killed. The alleged shooter, I guess we have to say that, alleged shooter, until they technically find him guilty. But the alleged shooter, I guess, killed himself. That's the best I can tell you. I don't have a lot of information, but it looks like he committed suicide, which is what a lot of these people do. It also looks like he killed the professor at the other college too, which is even more strange. Now they're both of these men, the shooter and the victim, are from Portugal. And I guess they knew each other in Portugal. I mean, the whole thing is so strange. I hope that, I mean, it's going to be a tough case, I think, for the FBI, but they'll get to it. I mean, they have the kind of resources and the talented people. They'll get to the bottom of it. But of course, the bigger problem short term for me is the lack of security. And frankly, these press conferences with like the president of the school and the police chief, these people didn't come across as very knowledgeable people. They're not the kinds, they were not inspirational, I'll put it that way. These people were not the kinds of people who are going to inspire me that they're doing the best job they can at that university. So not a good day for Brown University, just not a good day at all. And I just hope they get their act together, because I have a funny feeling there are going to be some lawsuits against the university. I don't know anything about that, but I just get the feeling that there may very well be. I've got a post coming out tomorrow, and it's based on an article that Matt Margolis wrote. And Matt is a great writer. He's posting a lot about politics these days. And he wrote a post about the Democrat Party. You know, we keep hearing about these polls that Trump is down and all of that, but he's not as far as down as the Democrats are. The Democrats are way down in public acceptance. In fact, a most recent poll has them at like 18% favorability. Well, 18% is not a very good number. And when you look at the polls and you compare them and you look at the big picture, for example, the race for the House, which is going to be the big contest of 2026, they're only separated by 3 or 4 points. So for all the bad news the Republicans have been getting, the Democrats are not getting good news for them, which is really, really interesting. And I understand why. I mean, they don't have solutions. They're not a party that has solutions. All they can tell you is that Trump is bad, Trump is terrible, and he wants to take away your subsidies, which he doesn't, because these subsidies are actually Democrat subsidies. They're the ones who created these subsidies, and they were always supposed to be temporary. People forget that. The reason they expire at the end of December is because they were supposed to expire. No one ever said, hey, vote for these subsidies and they're going to go on forever. Nobody ever said that. The Democrats just never got around, I guess, to explaining to their voters that they were temporary. Now they want to turn them into permanent subsidies. Well, no, that's not going to fly. They don't have the votes in the Congress. And even if it were to pass the House, by one vote, let's say, it doesn't have 60 in the Senate. So this is dead in the water, to say the least. But it's really cynical to blame Trump for the fact that these subsidies are going to expire when they themselves were the ones who who said the subsidies would end at the end of December. So I hope somebody is asking them that question. Somebody in the media, that is asking them that question. Well, we remember today, on this day in history, we remember one of my old-time favorite baseball players, Al Kaline, who was a Hall of Famer and played his entire career with the Detroit Tigers, one of the old-time greats. You know, he was a favorite of mine when I was growing up. His best years were in the 60s when he was just a great hitter, great right fielder, great arm, just a great player. And back then, they didn't have as many teams go to the postseason as they do now. So Kaline only got to play in one postseason. That was 1968, when the Tigers beat the Cardinals. But he was always a favorite of mine. I used to love the way he played and just everything about him I used to love so much. Al Kaline, who was born in Baltimore, Maryland, on this day in 1934, passed away in 2020. And I think later in life, after he quit playing, after he retired from playing, I should say, he became a broadcaster, I believe, for the Tigers television network. And that he did that for a long time, as I understand. Well, thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.